What's up everyone, it's your boy Felix the Fox, and Sonic Generations is back in 2024 with the release of Sonic X Shadow Generations, and today I want to break down all 9 main levels in the game, all 3 Chaos Emerald mini-bosses, and the Dr. Eggman boss, and especially the final boss at the end of the game. At the end of this video, I will be doing a quick ranking of all the 9 main levels, so please make sure you stick around for the end of that. And I know I sound a little under the weather today, but I still want to bring y'all this video, so I am powering through it. So let's get started with everyone's favorite classic, Green Hill Zone. Since Green Hill Zone debuted in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, it has been featured in over 5 other main Sonic titles in the series at this point. Sonic Adventure 2, this game, Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and Sonic Frontiers. So yeah, this level has come and gone in so many different styles, but I will say the 3D version of this level featured in Sonic Generations is probably my favorite, hands down. Sonic Team really gave us something special with this. The first time we saw a 3D version of Green Hill was in Sonic Adventure 2. After you collect all the 180 emblems, you can unlock this like special stage. However, this isn't really anything compared to what we get in Sonic Generations. This special version was like Sonic Adventure 2 just kind of turned it on its side, looking like a mix of like Super Sonic 64 meets Donkey Kong Country. I don't know, this was never anything like really big to me. But I adore this version in Sonic Generations so much. Fast and exhilarating gameplay, nice boosting paths, amazing visuals, fast-paced 2D sections, cool shortcuts, and so many nice little nods to Green Hill as you progress through the map. This is a great first experience for the player. If this happened to be your first Sonic game, or even your first Boost game, then you're in for a real treat here. Not only is every single detail in this level amazing for 3D Boost Sonic, they went extra hard for the 2D section as well. I've always been more of a 2D Sonic fan myself up until recent years. I started to love the gameplay of the Boost formula much more, as I believe there is so much more depth and fun to be had with that gameplay. But again, that doesn't mean you should just push 2D Sonic to the side at all. As a fan of 2D platformers in general, such as Mario, Celeste, Shovel Knight, Metroid, and Cuphead, Sonic offers so much in the 2D realm, and here in Sonic Generations they really offer a 2.5D model of our Hedgehog of the past, and he feels wonderful here. I have put countless hours into the original trilogy and Sonic Mania, so I have a pretty good feel on Sonic physics at this point, and even in this re-release, I think he feels great, but not perfect. I've always thought this 2D Sonic doesn't feel quite as good as those other games, but granted, this is leagues better than what Forces or Generations 3DS gave us. The drop dash being added here in this newest release just adds so much more to these levels as well. This 2D version of Green Hill offers some of the best platforming sections we have seen in the original and remakes, but also adds new areas and platforms as well. Now, there isn't much here to dive into as we will see in the later levels coming up, mainly because Green Hill has been beaten to death, but this map and its environment is so magical. Not only for nostalgia, but something about Green Hill just makes me want to jump in every time. No matter how I'm feeling, what type of mood I'm in, I know if I jump into Green Hill, I will have a great time. The music is catchy and I always find myself humming along as I'm blasting through. I think it pairs very well with the Boost gameplay when done right, and the 2D version here offers the player a little something extra to feel different than its other, 10 different counterparts. Now coming up to the most notorious and loved of all second levels, Chemical Plant. Another classic 2D level brought to the 3D Boost formula for this game, except this time, Sonic Generations being the first game where we will see a full 3D Chemical Plant. We would get other versions later with Forces and Frontiers of course, but nothing as good as this one. Starting with Modern Sonic, this level starts off with 3 separate pathways. The middle being your basic go-to path to get the level started, while the path to your right will offer a bit of high ground as you jump off some springs, which will eventually lead you back to the main path. But the left path, which features a bit trickier platforming and has a ring dash thrown right in the middle of it, will shave off seconds from your run and have you join the main path much later on. I remember the first time I finally pulled off the left path shortcut, I ended up saving a whole 14 seconds on the first checkpoint alone, which really helped the rest of my run when getting better times. The rest of the level features some nice 3D moments, but has a lot of 2D sections within it. Yeah, most stages in this game with Modern Sonic do feature lengthy 2D sections, but Planet Wisp and Chemical Plant in particular have the longest, most stretched out 2D sections than any other levels that I've noticed. Now, again, I don't mind these 2D sections mixed with my 3D Sonic, but like We do have a whole other Sonic here specifically made for 2D, so sometimes I wish maybe some of the 2D was cut back to give modern Sonic a bit more of a chance to shine here, but I'm not saying I dislike it that much, of course. The 2D sections of Planet Wisp that I will get to later frustrate me a lot more than anything Chemical Plant can do, and overall this is a fantastic level to play through, and definitely a win for modern Sonic here. Speedrun strats in this map are absolutely wild to watch. If you have time, I would definitely go check some of those out. Now, discussing Act 1 of Chemical Plant, there isn't much to add here that I didn't already say with Green Hill Zone. It's pretty much all the same. A nice nod to the original sprite versions of this level, some added things here and there. I actually like that they kept the drowning block section that so many people hate, but they also kept a shortcut to avoid it if you can pull that off. Chemical Plant is a classic map, and this is a great 2D rendition of it. I think speedrunning this level is really fun even for classic Sonic, as you can just fly through with enough practice. Nothing too tricky either for the average Sonic player in my opinion, which now brings us to the first tricky level I would say that the player will encounter in this game. Or the first level with a range of difficulty, that being Sky Sanctuary. What makes this map a bit trickier than Chemical Plant or Green Hill, for modern Sonic at least, is all the different paths you can take here and how you are punished when you missed one. Sky Sanctuary starts off linear until you get past that one rail section. The level just opens up like crazy and lets you decide what path you are going to take. This level definitely gets more challenging the farther in you go. With maps like Sky Sanctuary, Seaside Hill, Speed Highway, and Rooftop Run, if you fail a jump, miss an input, or flub a tricky platforming section, you are just sent to the lower path to keep going and going through the level. The lower path is often more punishing, adding more obstacles, enemies, and platforms to slow you down, while your reward for staying on the high path is better boosting sections to get your speed down, pathways that blend nicely into each other for smoother transitions, and enemies placed to get you farther into the level. Sky Sanctuary is the first map that really shows the player this type of mechanic. Throughout the map, you are constantly being punished for being on the low path, whether that be with death and forcing a restart, or enemies and small platforms just placing those awkward sections to slow you down. A clever mechanic is adding these little red teleportation devices. See, you can skip them to progress faster in the level, but if you do miss a jump, these will bring you back to the top, just very, very slowly. And the 2D section of Sky Sanctuary Hill is quite enjoyable. You are still met with the great high pass and frustrating low pass, but this level kind of lets Sonic Team show the 2.5D level design they kind of had in mind for this. You are jumping from clouds and climbing up towers just like in modern Sonic stage, but some sections let you run along these little curved paths, and you have these spinning platforms that really gives the immersion of 2.5D Sonic. And honestly, there's only a couple sections in this level that features this, but again, this would become much more predominant in a game like Sonic Superstars, and I'm so glad we got to see the start of that right here. Which this now leads us to our first Chaos Emerald mini-boss with Metal Sonic. Honestly, not much different here than the Metal Sonic bosses that have come before and what we would see in Sonic Mania afterwards. This is just a simple auto-run kind of race like Shadow and Silver are as well, but this one's specifically for 2D Sonic. Metal Sonic chases you and you have to dodge his attacks and then hit him when he's vulnerable. Not too hard at all. I kind of shut my brain off when doing this level now. It's my least favorite of the Chaos Emerald bosses, but I thought it was a nice touch for Metal Sonic to have a moment to shine here. And this ends our first 3 stages, bringing us to the first boss gate, bringing back the Death Egg robot from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. In the original Sonic 2, you can't get hit at all when doing the final boss, making this level really iconic and stand out to gamers all over the world. I'm really glad Sonic Team made a different type of boss fight for our classic Sonic to take on here. You start off very similar to how you do in the original, except after you hit Eggman's backside a couple times, you are transported to a different part of the battle where you try to get Eggman's arms to try and hit these bombs placed around the stage. Do that a couple times, pounce on him on the head, and bam, you're done. Nothing too difficult at all. I really like the design of the Egghead robot here, definitely hitting us with a little bit of nostalgia while also bringing in this new style as well. Now, moving on to the 4th level in this game, which is the magnificent Speed Highway. Yeah, the name is right there in the title, guys. This level is a masterclass in design. I could gush for half of this video over Speed Highway alone. This is where the devs finally get to stretch their legs and really go all out with this 4th level. Speed Highway opens up with an exhilarating boost pad. However, if you are fast enough, you can jump off and catch a ride with a helicopter that takes you to a rail section and really blow past a good chunk of the beginning. And there are loads of more shortcuts thrown all over this map. All of these levels were designed to be replayed countless times in order to get better at them. but Speed Highway is the first level in the game that really itches my finger to try it again. Most of my playthroughs, I tend to beat the first 3 levels in the boss as fast as I can without much thought to go back to them and then just blow past the Eggman fight. However, every time I do Speed Highway for the first time, I immediately want to jump back in and get a better time. Every time I run through this map, I just see something new out there. That is mainly due to the fact that even though this level can be over 1.5 minutes and it's actually quite long and has a lot of different paths, if you want to explore this level, you could take a good 4 minutes here doing so and getting all the red stars. That is what I love about Speed Highway with both acts. The first map in the game to give the average player so many options, and the 2D level for Classic Sonic is no pushover at all. The devs went above and beyond here. 2D Sonic can still get the ride from the helicopters and rockets around the map, but I feel this level is a bit more linear than Sky Sanctuary before it. By that, I mean there are less branching paths for this 2D level in particular. Sky Sanctuary had layers to each section where you can see each path on the screen as you're moving. Speed Highway lets the player get better at jumping off platforms at the right time, hitting certain enemies to improve your time. There is still a punishing low path and rewarding high path thrown in occasionally, but there isn't like this center of the level design, which is why I prefer the layout of Classic Speed Highway to some of the other Act 1 stages in the game. Blasting past Speed Highway takes us to one of the best designed levels in the game, such an iconic stage and a hard kick in the nostalgia with City Escape. City Escape debuted in Sonic Adventure 2 and has always been a classic map in the Sonic fandom. The song really took off for the band Crush 40 as well, being such an iconic song to the series at this point. You start the level riding on a flap that Sonic just ripped off the gun helicopter and you use that to zoom through the streets and soar through the air as you hit these ramps, and it really only gets better from there. This level was perfectly redesigned for Sonic Generations. The first half of the level features pretty much like 2 different paths, and it's not too difficult to stay on the high path, but the tricky part of this level is actually trying to find the best route to get the fastest time. Sometimes taking the highest path or what you think would be the fastest route isn't always the case. Landing in certain spots and defeating certain enemies at the right time to hit the correct boost pad and saving your boost cage for the exact right times is where the real challenge of the stage comes in. The second half of the stage features a lengthy chase scene with a truck that's coming after you at full speed. I think this chase scene is great, like the first couple times you play it. I will say after you play through this level a lot, the chase scene becomes like less and less exhilarating the more you do it. You can kind of just fly by it and it's not really like something you think about, which again, that is a normal human thing that happens. Like if you watch some scary movie 5 times in a row, yeah, the 6th time you watch it, it's not going to be as scary as the first time you watch it, obviously. But my main point here is I have replayed these levels a ton, and none of the other sections tend to feel old as fast as this chase section does. Again, this could just be a Felix hot take, and I'm fine with that. But it is something I wanted to mention, and it is a feeling I get every time replaying this stage in particular. Y'all let me know in the comments below if anyone else kind of shares this same sentiment, or if any of the other stages you feel a trope they did just gotten really boring and old as you play through it more. Now, for the 2D version of this stage, it hits just as hard, man. Classic Sonic is going through almost kind of like a construction site, which is the perfect theme for any Sonic level in my opinion. The stage also throws a bit of the 2D level design we saw earlier in Sky Sanctuary. This time the roofs run diagonally, giving Sonic a zigzag motion coming toward and away from the screen, which is like the first time you really get to see this, and it's really eye-opening to see the level design happen in this way. The chase scene in this act is really exhilarating as Sonic gets to ride on a skateboard, absolutely soaring through this level at top speed while hitting ramps just like in Act 2. And I think the chase sequence here is actually really nice. Letting the truck knock off certain platforms to reach different areas and waiting on the right time to jump to make sure you can collect all the red star rings, it's a wonderfully crafted level and just a straight love letter to Sonic Adventure 2, and I'm so glad the devs designed this act in the way they did. After we escape from the city, we get to our second Chaos Emerald mini-boss with Shadow the Hedgehog. This is my favorite Chaos Emerald mini-boss for sure, hands down. This level has you racing Shadow to chase these like balls of energy. Collect 2 of them and you are granted a temporary ability to take out Shadow. When Shadow was first introduced in SA2, this cutscene played out very similarly, and I love how they designed this. This is such an iconic rival boss, running right next to Shadow, being neck and neck, chasing down the ball of energy as you veer off ramps and rails to run into each other and lose rings as you go. It is an exhilarating battle that you can get faster and faster each time you do it. After taking out Shadow and getting that darn Chaos Emerald, we arrive at Seaside Hill. I like this level just fine. I think it does have some very cool moments. Now, not a complete step down, of course, from the highs of City Escape as you get the race car section and seeing Shamu pop up all over the place. And the 2D section for Modern Sonic isn't that bad either. It's fairly short and you blow past it pretty quickly, which is exactly how I like my 2D sections with my 3D Sonic. Just a segue to slow you down a bit before you get to the next boost section. Seaside Hill is a great stage, don't get me wrong. However, I don't replay it as much as Rooftop Run or Speed Highway, and it's not because of the level design. I think it's mainly because it just doesn't have that same charm as Green Hill or those other stages I just mentioned. Seaside Hill is beautiful, but I think holds it back from being in the top 3 is that the top 3 are just so amazing that this doesn't quite live up to them, but it's still a fantastic stage. Now, transitioning to the classic version of this stage, I will start this off by admitting I am a part of the Sonic fandom that doesn't like water levels. I love when they incorporate it for 3D Sonic. I think they always do a great job with the boost formula and mixing water with the level design. But for 2D Sonic, it really drags. This is the first 2D Sonic level I don't really enjoy all that much at all. It's so dark, there's water all over the place, and there's very little charm that Seaside Hill has. Just gets washed away with this act, man. You are waiting on platforms to rise and lower, often, which just kills the pacing. The level doesn't open up at all until the very end where you are being chased by a giant rolling wheel and Sonic finally has enough room to stretch his legs and get some speed going. I mean, the last 30 seconds of this level is really good, but the 2 to 4 minute slog of the beginning really hurts the stage for me. This now leads us to the second boss gate with Perfect Chaos. In the original Sonic Adventure, the final fight, you are Supersonic when fighting this guy. However, obviously the devs had to wait for Supersonic later in the game, thus creating the level design for this boss. This is my favorite boss in the game, hands down. Or maybe I should phrase that differently. The boss I can tolerate the most in this game. I think the boss battles in Sonic Generation are kind of what holds it back the most. Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Frontiers, and Unleashed to me have fantastic boss fights. But if all Sonic Generations kind of feel like a bit bland, now yes, they are based off older versions that we have already seen, because that's the whole point of this game anyways. But none of them really hit the same though. The only one that does for me is Perfect Chaos. This is a really nice take on this boss and I enjoy just flying through this level. Each phase is done very well and the transitions into each section are very nice. You always know what the next objective is, and finding shortcuts to get it done faster is really fun to pull off. I don't think this is a great boss, but it's definitely the best design in my opinion. Now, this takes our final 3 main stages in the game, starting with my least favorite out of all of these, Crisis City. Yes, this is a little hint at how the rankings will go later in the video, sure, but I just had to preface that before diving into this. I will applaud the devs for taking a level from 06 of all games to put in this game, but I do not like this stage at all in Act 1 or Act 2, and I don't think it's just because it's from 06. I mean, that's definitely a part of it. I mean, Sonic Team made an absolute gem with Sonic Generations, but if you use dog poop to try and shine a diamond, there's only so much you can do with that, and I think Crisis City is the perfect example of that. And throughout this video, I haven't discussed any of the 10 missions that go with each stage, and that's mainly because I'm saving that for a separate video, but even all 10 missions for this stage are dreadful to go through. All 5 for Classic Sonic and all 5 for Modern Sonic can't even save this stage for me, and I don't ever want to replay this thing unless I have to. Again, I don't want to be negative Nancy here too much, but when I go back and do the rankings for these videos later on, I am ranking them off of replayability and enjoyability. And guys, this map has neither for me. Even speedrunning this map isn't anything to write home about either. You are constantly waiting on platforms in this stage, which I don't like in my Sonic games, especially forced 2D sections and a 3D boost formula act. On a Mario game, it makes sense for you to wait for the right time to jump, when to cross a gap, as going fast isn't like the whole catchphrase there. You're just a princess saving dinosaur kicking acrobat. But Sonic is supposed to go fast, and this level slows you down as much as it can. I don't enjoy the stomping lava mechanic. That is just more waiting and kind of endless button mashing. I understand that this could be another Felix hot take, and again, I'm okay with that. I've made my peace with that. But if you have your own reasons for loving this stage, please let me know in the comments. I want to know what people actually like from this stage because I've been trying to love it for years and I've never been able to. The classic version of this stage isn't that much better either. At least you are moving the whole time and aren't forced to slow down as much in Act 2, but the ending is really what does it for me. And you kind of have to think, the devs knew what kind of level they made with the crap they pulled at the end, right? Yeah, the first time I saw the Eggman sign "Fly away, right when I got there" was fun and cheeky, but you get the wind blowing 200 miles an hour, blowing Sonic back 5 feet every time you move. Yes, I'm exaggerating a little, but you get my point. They definitely made a challenging level, but not challenging in the way you would want to get better and faster like with Sky Sanctuary. More so, you just want to be done with this level as fast as you can so you can move on to the next one, which again, is one of the best levels in the game. But before we get to that, we gotta talk about the last Chaos Emerald mini-boss, Silver. Straight out the gate, gonna be honest, not as much fun as the Shadow fight, but still better than Metal Sonic fight in my opinion. The Silver fight is pretty easy. You don't even really have to boost actually if you don't want to, which is actually pretty cool. It will take a bit longer, yeah, but pretty much the level kind of plays itself. As long as you get past the first 3 waves, which are really all the same, then he sends a giant ball of records after you. This is where you do have to boost, but after that, the level's over. Yeah, the last couple boss fights and ending to this game definitely are starting to feel a bit rushed, and that's a pattern I think you will notice as we get closer to the end of the game. But after beating Silver, we get to jump into one of the fastest and thrilling stages ever made in a Sonic game to date, Rooftop Run. This level is absolutely peak Sonic. First, let me say this level comes straight from Sonic Unleashed, which features some of the best boost levels of all time, and Rooftop Run does not miss at all. The devs pulled out all the stops here, and to give the player the closest feeling to flying like you do in Unleashed. Rooftop Run is short, quick, simple. There aren't too many branching paths, but each one determines your route and how fast you will blow through the level. Regardless of which path you take, you're gonna be soaring. This level gives any player of any skill level a fun time in my opinion, which is so important to have in a Sonic game. Now, not every level in this game can be like Rooftop Run, or else it wouldn't give this stage the pedestal it deserves. Not every level can cater to all types of players, or else you really aren't making a Sonic game at that point. But with Unleashed, I don't think any boost levels in Modern Sonic are as good as what we see in Rooftop Run, Dragon Road, and Windmill Isle. Unleashed was peak boost Sonic, in my opinion, thus creating the fantastic experience we get in this level. Now, I am not completely blinded by love here, as I still see some flaws in this map. Well, just one, really. I think the final section can be a bit mind-numbing. Some stages in this game feature a 30-second ending where you are either blasting away or toward the camera, with something in front of you or something chasing you. And yeah, this is 30 seconds of kinda having to move right and left. Kinda. It isn't all too concerning. The lasers are pretty easy to dodge and you are sent to the end very, very quickly with the boost pads, but the 2 to 4 minutes you spend getting to this are some of the best designed paths in this game and some of the best paths Sonic Team has ever done. Now, when discussing Act 1, I do have some gripes. I think the beginning suffers the same problem as Seaside Hill. It's very, very tight. You are waiting on enemies and platforms to fall, and Sonic doesn't really get to stretch his legs until after the clock tower section, which that whole scene is really cool to watch, and I love witnessing it every time. But the beginning of this level definitely hurts it for me. Also, the charm that Act 2 has is kind of taken away here a little bit. It could just be me, but I feel Act 2 gave us some of the best levels ever made, and the aesthetic of that map is so good, and I just feel they kind of missed the mark a little bit with the classic Sonic Act. And now, for the last main level in the game, Planet Wisp. And guess what, guys? I don't like this level either. All jokes aside, Planet Wisp does look gorgeous. I think the beginning is really nice and offers some great mechanics for Boost Sonic. I do enjoy Sonic Colors. Now, I am one of those people who believe Sonic Colors has a lot more 2D than 3D at times. Much more than this game for sure. But I like the inclusion of Planet Wisp. To be honest, of all the color stages they could have added, kind of had to be this one. And realistically, when this game first came out in 2011, colors had also just come out. So there wasn't much reason to even add a color stage other than the fact that they needed another boost level. I definitely would have preferred an extra Unleashed stage, but I understand why they did this. Do I think it's a phenomenal stage? No, not at all, but it has some moments. Pretty much just the first minute. After that, man, is the 5-minute slog of the ending. I don't like the factory you go through at all. Not a fan. I think this one section is cool, and then when you are boosting across the rail carts can be enjoyable, but other than that, this stage doesn't do it for me. Now again, all 9 of these stages are technically stellar and amazing for modern and classic Sonic, so just because 2 of them are a bit stinky doesn't mean they're bad or horrible. They are still great levels. Just compared to all the sharper stages around them, they come off of just a bit dull and boring. Act 1 definitely got the better Wisp power, I will say. I think the orange Wisp for the rocket was a good choice for 3D Sonic, just implemented wrong. You could use it in the most basic ways possible, and every time you are only going up, and it looks the same as the rest of the freaking map. None of the ending or middle looks different from each other, it all just blends in. Now, with the spike ball for classic Sonic was 110% the right move. With this Wisp, you are at least able to blast through the level pretty quickly. Now, it is still a slog to get through, and an S rank time is still like 4 minutes, which is absolutely ridiculous. But the 4 minutes you spend in Act 1 are a lot more enjoyable than the 4 to 6 minutes you spend in Act 2. Act 1 offers a bit more room to get your momentum and speed going. The tricky platforming isn't based on waiting around, but instead using your momentum to your advantage to go faster through the level. Planet Wisp is definitely not going in the top 3. I think we can all agree on that. But I think Sonic Team did try a bit here and just missed the mark when it came to replaying this stage. And now, finally, all 9 main levels are done, which brings us to our last 2 levels in this game. The final 2 bosses, starting with Egg Dragon. This boss is okay, it's fine, it's there, it does the job it was supposed to, I guess, it clocked in. I'll say it did the bare minimum. A bit more engaging than the Egghead robot, sure, a bit more dangerous than Perfect Chaos, but this boss drags to me, guys. See, the problem I have with bosses like this is when each phase feels the exact same. The stakes aren't raising, the gameplay doesn't feel rewarding, and you just want it to end. You don't want to beat the boss because you're sick of Eggman. No, you are beating it just to get to the next part. Like, literally, there is no stakes here. Nothing to immerse me into this. Every phase just goes by and repeats over and over and over and over, but at least it's not as bad as what came after it. Alright everyone, as someone who doesn't really enjoy hearing negative things on video games all the time, I'm going to be honest and let you know for the next however long I will be a super negative Nancy. No more positive good vibes Felix here, because this level brings out a darkness in me I didn't know I even had. If you don't want to hear a negative rant, then skip to this timestamp in the video, but if you do, then get ready, because I believe that this is the worst final boss in a video game period ever made. How many times can I hear it's a homing shot? Oh, careful Sonic, switch and go after him. I think it's a homing shot. The flow of time will be restored. Oh, this boss blows. I don't care. Go look at any online forum discussing this boss fight. It's absolutely abysmal. You can spend up to God knows how long in this boss fight, from 8 minutes to 20 minutes of nothing but boosting and catching coins. Every time I beat this thing, I feel like it's just a fluke. I was hoping, praying, and just having all the faith in the world that this re-release of Generations, they just might go back and fix this boss. But no. When finally playing this game to make this video, the longest part, guys, you know what took me out before anything else was getting me through this battle? I lost my voice this week and couldn't even do a voiceover for a solid week. But that didn't even make me as frustrated as this final boss. I was yelling and swearing all up in my foxhole while my poor friends had to hear me groan and complain for almost an hour trying to beat this thing. And at first, yeah, I assumed it was user error. I'm not the most skilled gamer out there. I think y'all kind of know this at this point. I made a whole video on that, but turns out it's not, because my highly skilled gamer friend that I mentioned before also think this is just an unfair slog of a boss. I mean, you almost have a 10 out of 10 game here, and then Sonic Team just had to make something so broken and frustrating because they can't ever make a perfect Sonic game. They have to add one little thing or one little gimmick to screw the whole thing up, and that gimmick, it's this boss fight. I could show you all 3 different phases of this fight, and I promise the only difference you will be able to tell is the timer in the left corner, and maybe like the rockets becoming more and more often. All dialogue is exactly the same. The entire time, I'm gonna be real honest here, I wanted to make this video to mainly make this point about the boss. I want everyone at Sonic Team to know how awful this boss is, and I hope someone out there can fix this. If you are watching this and you listen to that whole rant and think I am really over exaggerating, please let me know. Please let me know in the comments, because I have asked several different people and watched a lot of videos, and everyone seems to share the same sentiment that I do. However, if you have a difference of opinion, I would actually love to hear it, because I always want to know what the other side of the coin is. But man, good lord, that feels good to finally get off my chest. Wow. Okay. Now for what you have all been patiently waiting for. Thank you. It is time to rank all 9 of these main stages, and here we go. Again, these will be ranked with my personal opinion and based on replayability and enjoyability. Okay, dead last, Crisis City, obviously. Now, coming in at number 8, that's right, Planet Wisp, as you could probably guess. Now, coming in at our number 7 spot is Sky Sanctuary. I know, but to me, I don't replay this map a lot. I have a lot of fun with it when I do, but definitely isn't replayable nearly as much as any of these other 6 on the list. Now, coming in at number 6 is Chemical Plant, and number 5, Green Hill Zone. Yeah, I definitely swapped back and forth on these 2 a lot, trying to decide which one I play through more and have the most fun with. It was a hard choice, but Green Hill definitely takes that spot for me, as I can dive in way more times than I can with Chemical Plant. Now, coming in at number 4 is Seaside Hill. Definitely not as good as our top 3, and I know it didn't sound like it was gonna land this high when I was talking about it earlier, but this stage has its own identity, and it is given a lot of moments to shine that I personally think outdo both of those classic maps below it. Moving on to number 3 will be Speed Highway. Yes, it was such a hard call to do these top 3, oh my gosh, but I really love these next 2 maps, and they are my favorite Sonic levels of all time, so Speed Highway will just have to take the bronze here, because coming in with silver is City Escape, one of the most iconic 3D Sonic levels of all time, and a fantastic thrill ride for both acts, from the beginning to the end. Amazing visuals towards the end with the chase scene, and all just a fun map to dive into over and over and over again. But it's not as well crafted, and it's not as fun to blast through than our number 1 spot. That's right, Rooftop Run takes the cake. Absolute best level in Generations, and one of the best designed Sonic levels of all time. I do wish Act 1 was designed a bit better, but I still put more hours into this level than any other level I've ever played in this game, or any other level in any Sonic game, period. Thank you all so much for watching this video. So sorry about my voice. I hope I'll be better in the next one, and I'll see you later. Peace.